Show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NBA Playbook Preview Show. We got 8 games on tonight's main slate here, James. A pretty big day. Some big news earlier in the day. Jimmy Butler ruled out. We knew LaMelo Ball wasn't going to play here today. So some value potentially opening up. I have the playbook out already for everybody there with some of my core plays written up here for today. Our player pools will be updated after today's show. So if you're tuning in now, looking at the playbook, we know that once this show goes off air, I'll update our player pool. Waiting for some late breaking news. It is a 7:30 start time here, James. So we do have some games, a little extra time than we normally do at the end of the show to wait for some news to come out here. So when we do get any more information, I'll certainly be having that in the playbook ready for all of you as well. But my dude, man, how are we doing?
Doing great. I love that tonight, 8 games. 5 of them, as you mentioned, 7:30.
Yeah.
1 8 o'clock, 1 8:30, and then John.
Yeah.
Nothing like the old 10 o'clock start for the late night hammer. In a game that is great, and then you start looking at prices and you start looking at options, and you're like, well, I actually don't know who to play in this late window. So it's definitely an interesting slate. And yes, I see through you. I originally from New York, moved to Florida. My blood thinned out. Now I'm moving slowly more north to the Carolinas. But anytime it's below 60 degrees, instant freezing cold. I'm also
Don't come back to Massachusetts. It was 40 degrees today.
Yeah, no shot. I'm also sitting under a vent, and every so often my wife's like, "Oh, it's hot in here. Let's turn the air on." So just in case, prepping for the air to go on at some point or another. I have the hat on. I did have a sweatshirt on too, but as soon as I shut the doors, and no shot, I'm about to go sweat. I would pass out in here. So. A little cold today, John. 40 degrees. Dude, you need to. Just move south. What do people in the north why do people still live in the north? That's my question.
They say schools and hospitals, man, but it's just way more expensive these days. And I guess if you're into Chinese food, we have better Chinese food up north.
Oh, dude. I do. I'm not a big Chinese food guy, but every so often I want a good chicken and broccoli, and you cannot find a good chicken.
Yeah, it doesn't really exist down south. No. I lived in the Carolinas for about 8 months here. And there was no Italian and there was no Chinese food. It had
the Italian has evolved, John, since you've been here. I will say that. There's a good couple shout outs. Shout out Scotto's Pizzeria. Super good restaurant down here for.
Well, when I make my way down there in March, maybe I'll have to check it out. But those of you jumping in here to the stream today, appreciate all of you to give us a little like on today's show.
There's no roast. Mark, there's no roast. What are you?
There is no roast beef places either. That is true. North Shore roast beefs are big deals here. Mark knows. Mark knows about the Conway life. If you give us a like on today's show, also subscribe to the channel, helps us out a lot here. 8 games, James. We got a couple of games, some high game totals here as well. Cleveland, Atlanta, game over 237, I think it was last at. Then we know the late night hammer game, also sitting around that 237 game total. We had a couple of line movers as well last night and this morning when we did the preview show. We looked at that OKC Minnesota game. Minnesota was a 4.5 point home favorite in that one. Last I saw, it was down to 2.5 points. So some money moving in towards the Thunder side of that game. So it's kind of something interesting to note there. We have the Knicks as a big double-digit point favorite. We have the Celtics in a very, very interesting scenario for Boston here tonight when it comes to the in-game play-in tournament. It's not just that they're 13.5 point favorites here tonight at home against Chicago, but there's a weird tiebreaker scenario where they have to win by 25 points tonight or something like that. Yep. And the Nets can't win by more than X, and somehow they win the tiebreaker for the wild card seed or the group 2 seed or whatever. So, the Celtics are going to be going out there looking to hang 150 tonight, I think. So, keep that in mind when you're looking at Boston, Chicago here. What else are you looking at, James?
There's obviously just a couple paced environments that we want to take a look at. The Houston-Dallas game is obviously one. Houston in a massive pace-up spot. They're near the bottom of the league. Top 10 is Dallas in pace. They're also one of like a handful of teams that really fast, really bad defensively, and those are the best teams to target. We actually have two of them on this slate. We have Dallas and we have Atlanta, both teams that are top 10 in pace and bottom 10 in defense. Those are the spots to target. So just a couple spots to target. Obviously, the Charlotte situation is very interesting because typically when you get someone out like LaMelo Ball, it's like attack, attack, attack. But now you have to attack them against the Knicks, who are 29th in pace. And not only 29th in pace, they're 6th in defense. So, like, it's not as simple as, well, LaMelo's out, so let's plug and play everyone in Charlotte. We're definitely going to have to pick our spots there. So definitely some interesting things going on. And obviously the whole in-season tournament. I mean, you look at the standings, Houston can clinch. There's only 2 teams have fully clinched and moved on to the in-season tournament. So, like, every game tonight really matters. Not that it hasn't. We've seen really competitive games and really fun, like, teams playing 40-plus minutes on in-season tournament nights basically this entire season. So anyone that is old and get off my lawn about it so far, like, you can kick rocks. I understand you don't understand the courts, whatever, but, like, it's been quality basketball. It doesn't impact your day-to-day life if you're, like, just grumpy about implementing something new. So yeah, I mean, in-season tournament, let's see, Knicks can clinch with Group B win.
It's a popsicle headache, man, if you try to go through and figure out exactly every breaking scenario for every team here.
There's like a 30 I'm looking at the NBA Twitter right now, and it's like a 30-tweet thread on what the clinching scenarios are. That is just okay.
So go look at that up, because we're not going to break it down for you.
No, we're not.
I think like the only team actually eliminated here is like Dallas.
I think Chicago. No, Chicago is
Chicago as well. So let's get into it though. We got 8 games to talk about here. We got plenty of people in the chat. Again, if you guys have questions, you want to throw them in the chat, we're more than happy to help you out there. Faisal keeping it warm in Cali for us here. Again, Grande wearing the winter hat in South Carolina. I'm freezing in my office right now. I'm in Boston, so it's cold everywhere we go here. You're drinking the coffee with the mug. Got to get the coffee going early. Makes sense.
Serve fresh daily, John.
Yeah, I hear you.
Dad joke.
Not a dad joke. Point guard position. The Prince is in the chat. What's up, the Prince? Happy to have you make it here. We haven't talked about anything yet. Just how bad Chinese food is in the South. There you go. Chicken, broccoli, and roast beef are not Southern items.
No.
Well, I mean, listen, Arby's is a Southern thing, but Arby's roast beef is gross. Absolutely.
Arby's? That's where you went?
No.
Of all places, we go Arby's?
I'm saying it's terrible. It's terrible not to go there. But he talks about roast beef being a Southern thing. That's where Arby's is like the Southern roast beef chain. No thanks. No thanks there. All right, point guard position. Luka, SGA, your top 2 price guys. This morning we weren't really in on either play. I've come around on SGA now that total is moving in the direction of OKC here. Because if it's going to be a competitive game, it's going to be fairly high scoring. And if that ends up being the case, SGA is kind of the man that's going to be the reason that the Thunder might win this game here. We've seen ceiling performances out of him. And I kind of brought up both he and Anthony Edwards in the Playbook Core play section today, because those two could be a super fun back and forth battle with one another on tonight's slate here. So if I'm looking to spend up tonight on DraftKings, I think SGA, because you get the almost a little over $1,000 difference between Luka and Giannis for SGA. Now over on FanDuel, they're basically all the same price tag. I might go Luka in that scenario, being at home against Houston here tonight. Houston, allowing the 3rd most free throws per game to their opponent, could see Luka take 15 free throws tonight, for all we know. So I was thinking Luka on FanDuel, but I'll take the discount on SGA over on DraftKings tonight.
Yeah, I mean, obviously super tough spot for both parties, just considering Houston's tied for the top defense in the league, and SGA is against Minnesota. They're tied for 3rd. So super tough spots. Minnesota does, if I'm not mistaken, play pretty fast. No, they're playing really slow this year. 19th in pace.
They're a middle team. They're a middle team, not like the worst, obviously, because it's
Yeah.
32nd. But yeah, they're not as quick as they had been.
Yeah. Well, that double
That's
now, like,
they're in towns, right? Like you're just
actually implementing that double big lineup is definitely slowing them down. I mean, I'm okay. Like, that's where you land, no one can be like, yes, getting a 1% Luka / SGA or sub 10% SGA Luka that has 70 plus
that's where I'm
fantasy
at.
point upside. It's like
you look at the rostership. No one's playing. Nobody's spending up today. It's all fair and balanced lineups.
Yep. Well, that was also because until Jimmy Butler was ruled out, we built with Georges. Not this is no shot at Georges Niang, but we built with Georges. We actively seeked out Georges Niang last night on the show. Like,
true,
there was no value until, and then you see when you look at the updated ownership over at FantasyAlarm.com, like the 4 of the top 6 owned players tonight are now Miami Heat value plays. Jaquez, Martin, Richardson, and Lowry. So,
and even those guys aren't like $3,000.
No, they're not. There's as of right now, there's no punt. There's no like punt value. But yeah, if you end up on Luka SGA, that's fine. Definitely have to be comfortable with the rest of your build, because if you get up to a Luka at 11.6, like, could obviously with not a lot of value handicap your lines, but I'm okay with either in tournaments.
For sure. Working our way over here down the list, we have De'Aaron Fox and Trae Young, the 2 highest scoring projected game totals there at 98, 97. Curry's there at 95. Lillard 93. Thoughts on the second tier of top guys?
They're all, I think, fine, right? It's nothing like, I was a little bullish on Trae last night, and then the more you think about it, you're like, well, 9,700 is as expensive as it's been since opening night, and now he's in a massive pace down spot. That hasn't necessarily mattered. 37 minutes against Boston, 50 fantasy points. Pace down spot against Brooklyn, 67 fantasy points. So, like, hasn't mattered, but do we want to go there against Cleveland? I don't think so. Like, De'Aaron Fox, I think, has a massive ceiling, as we've seen, 66 fantasy points in his last game against at the time, the number 1 rated defense in the league. So you can, if you want, that's a way to get some exposure to the late night hammer, but I'm not like forcing that into my line. Kyrie, a little too expensive. Curry, I think you and I talked about it. It's like just blanket tournament play, but like Draymond's back. So the peripheral stats that already haven't been there are definitely not going to be like in Steph Curry's favor at 9,500. But if he shoots like the way he can, there is an elite ceiling. Lillard, fine. Mitchell, I think, is where probably of the 9K. I know probably we're going to talk about him as shooting guard. So sorry, I dropped the gun.
Position eligibility there.
A lone Mitchell could be super profitable, because we know, like, even with Garland lineup, if Mitchell's going well, he is the alpha on this team. Like, he has 50 actual point upside.
Agreed. Moving down into this mid-tier range here, we have VanVleet, obviously the cover of today's show, $8,100. Terry Rozier at 74, and then Darius Garland, currently projected to be the 3rd highest roster player overall on the slate, which is no real surprise. He was the cover of my playbook before I even had the updated rostership here. A ridiculous pace-up spot here for Cleveland, a close game, high total. No, Garland has a really big ceiling. So for $7,200, at 5x return of value, you're looking at 36 fantasy points, something that we've seen him go, 40, 50 fantasy points at times. And like we've said, when you have teams playing Atlanta, you have teams playing Indiana, you basically just kind of price them up a little bit in terms of their production, right? So I'm thinking we're going to get close to a ceiling game here from Garland at his price point.
We just got word LaMelo Ball officially a serious sprain. So his ankle is once again Steph Curry.
Yeah, he's going to miss big time. We know.
It's unfortunate. I would say Garland is definitely the top dog in this tier. He hasn't been amazing. Like, he hasn't shown a massive ceiling playing with Donovan Mitchell, but he's been good. You love to see the 41 minutes on a second leg of a back-to-back after leaving. You love to see the 24 and 8. We know he's a double-double threat. This is a massive pace-up spot for Cleveland, one of the best spots on the board. Love that spot. Love the VanVleet spot. Obviously, that's, we talked about that extensively on the podcast this morning. Houston probably my favorite team of the night, given what they're playing for, who they're playing, and what Dallas does: play fast and not defend. Rozier is obviously interesting because there's no LaMelo. Missed almost a month and just like, all right, I'm good to go. 37 minutes. Coming off a groin injury, 37 minutes, 15 shots. The 9 assists were great. You and I were talking about it last night. Like, who's going to play point? We saw Hayward only had like 2 assists, someone that we would naturally would fit into that playmaking role. Well, it was Terry Rozier, 22 and 9. So, like Rozier, John, I will say on the flip side of that game, I feel like if Charlotte can keep this game close, Jalen Brunson is a very interesting play because he has had some massive
had a massive game against Charlotte too already. 32 actual in that game.
Yeah, coming off 35 in his last game, over his last 5 games, 54, 50, 84 shooting splits, averaging 30 a game, 36 and 5, and he's like, the Knicks are getting a lot of ownership tonight. A lot of people gravitating toward the Knicks. Jalen Brunson checking in at like 11%.
This is also another spot where, Knicks are a team that needs to win here. A lot of teams need to win here, but we also talk the Knicks are a team that, regardless of score, play their guys. I mean, these are 2 20-point blowouts, and he played 34 and 39 minutes. He lost by 17. He played 36. So classic Tibbs, and Clifford's the same way on the other side. Like Rozier, rain or shine, he's playing 35 minutes tonight. So I'm with you. I think both sides of that game is obviously pretty appealing to me as well. When we get down into the value tier, again, we talk about Miami. Kyle Lowry's been playing really well, averaging over 30 minutes a night the last 5 games for him, 27 fantasy points. Obviously had that one massive outlier game where he scored 28 actual, but between those games, 25, 23, 27, 22, all good enough at $5,100 here. We know Milwaukee struggles defensively, especially against opposing point guards. No Jimmy Butler. Could see Kyle Lowry go out there and have another strong game. Mentioned Richardson also playing some big minutes for Miami lately. Last 2 games for him, 34, 27 minutes out of him as well. So we get down below in the low 5K and under 5K range, and we're largely looking at these Miami guys.
What do you think of the Miami starting lineup? Is it just as simple as Jaquez? Because Duncan Robinson probable.
Yep.
We probably see him just. Why wouldn't he start again? Right? Like, just Jaquez in for Butler? That was like the progression last time. Do you think it's just Jaquez and then?
Yeah, it could be Bam, Jaquez, Robinson, Richardson, Lowry, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. That would be my guess too.
Because they were playing Jaquez at power forward and Duncan Robinson at power forward at times this year. So
yeah, we don't know if Highsmith. So the Highsmith news is obviously key because if Highsmith doesn't play, that's going to unlock a lot more. Like that unlocks
and it
more.
keeps Caleb Martin in play for me too. Like I think if those guys all start, Martin's just in for 25 plus minutes off the bench, right? So.
Agreed. What if let's just speculate because I think this directly correlates to kind of like a Josh Richardson specifically. What if Highsmith plays and starts? Do you think Richardson? I mean, Highsmith's been playing like low 20s minutes, but Richardson's been playing 37 plus minutes.
Yeah, I still think you see Martin and Richardson play more minutes than Highsmith, even if he starts. So I'm not too worried about that.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a big size advantage that they're giving up. I mean, Highsmith isn't a big guy anyways. So Giannis and Brolo, I mean, they don't really, unless they don't really have anybody to throw out there. Love, I guess, right? But I don't really see that working its way out there either. The only other guard I'll mention, I put him in the playbook just as a value play, and we talked about this morning, is Ish Smith. A slate that's starred for value. Melo Ball played 15 minutes there. And then Ish Smith played 17. So my guess is Ish Smith's the backup point guard in this scenario.
Yeah.
Plays 20 minutes. I mean, he's been playing 20 minutes kind of off their bench anyways, varying levels of success. But, no LaMelo Ball now, no Rozier. With Rozier there, just could be a spot for Ish to come in and make some hay. So, again, total dart throw. Not many guys under 4K on this slate that we're looking at. It could be a spot that I'm taking a peek.
Yeah, I don't think that there's like an increase in minutes necessarily, but I do think that he is in play. It is worth mentioning James Bouknight is in and available for the first time this year. So Could Book Knight upsert Ish Smith? Potentially.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, he wasn't very impressive last year, but
no, I know, but like when you're thinking about Charlotte as a whole, who do you like? They have much more invested in Book Knight, despite all the off the floor stuff, than they do in Ish Smith. No offense to Ish Smith, but
sure.
I mean,
yeah, I guess I just look at it as Ish has kind of been the primary backup for them when healthy this year. So, not really looking at that at all. All right, let's go to shooting guard here. Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, guys we've discussed. Donnie Mitch, we've talked. Again, I wrote up Anthony Edwards. Again, big fan of what he's been doing. We're getting the steal production back, the defense back, to fill out the stat sheet with rebounds and assists, and the scoring's been there. So they were in from a 4.5 point favorite. Now they're down to 2.5. Total still pretty high here. I'm liking what we're seeing out of Minnesota, and I think this could be a preview of a Western Conference playoff matchup here between the Thunder and Minnesota here this year. We've been riding a lot of Towns this season, but I think we're back in a spot where Edwards is in a really nice price point in a matchup that I think he can exceed his value.
Yeah, I definitely like the Minnesota side of this game more. I mean, OKC is obviously not as good defensively. They're also 9th in pace. So we get a Minnesota team ranking 19th, getting a full possession faster than OKC in terms of pace. So I can definitely see myself getting to Anthony Edwards. So he is, I think we've kind of said like multiple times, there is definitely upside at 8,900 Anthony Edwards. So
agreed. Again, if this ends up being a back and forth ceiling game, I mean, he went for 58 against Sacramento, 53 here against Philadelphia at under 9K. Now 5X at $8,900 is, we need 45 fantasy points at that point. So we're getting, close to 6X return there if he goes for 50. So I'm a big fan of Ant Edwards here. Again, you mentioned a lot of people potentially going Donovan Mitchell potentially in that spot going up against Atlanta. We think that we could see some rostership there.
No, he's actually coming in like pretty low owned. Honestly, Cleveland is getting ownership going Garland and Allen's way, which I find super interesting because I think people probably look at. We haven't talked about it a lot this year, but recency bias can be a thing that like takes you off of Donovan Mitchell just because he's had 2 poor games coming off an injury. Mm-hmm. But this is a dream scenario for him. So if I'm okay getting to Edwards or Mitchell. Obviously, there's savings on Edwards. Mitchell has slightly better position eligibility. I don't know.
Edwards is a much chalkier play at this point as well. Just kind of the more recent update that could be coming through here. Almost 20% getting Edwards. As you mentioned, 5% actually only on Donovan Mitchell there. So more of a pivot then, to your point, on him there. Anybody else in this range? Would you look at Jaylen Brown knowing the amount of points they need to score here tonight?
82 just feels priced out for me. Like we've seen him hit this 3-4 times this year. I'm not saying he can't. We know Jaylen Brown has serious upside. He's super highly paid and should be good positional eligibility. We mentioned like 150 points is probably on the table against the Bulls tonight. But I think he is probably priced out for me, especially when you can like just simply play Terry Rozier for 800 less without LaMelo Ball, right? I would probably just not play Jaylen Brown at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. Anywhere in the mid tier, what's your top targets? I wrote up Max Strus here today. I also liked his betting prop of over 12.5 actual points at $6,600.
I mean, I'm never doubting Max Strus again, John. It's that those days are over. Never doubting him again. I thought he was a great fit for Cleveland. I didn't think he'd be this good of a fit for them. The 3-point shooting, 45% over the last 6 games has been amazing. I mean, the scoring in general, the rebounding has been a surprise. Plays big minutes, and nobody's playing him. So if you want to get to Strus, by all means. Look, 6,600 is not like a comfortable price with Cleveland healthy because there's probably going to be times where Max Strus is like the 4th or 5th offensive option. Right. But on nights like with the other night where he's taken 16 shots, if we get that Max Strus again, then this could be a very profitable night. I think Jalen Green is probably one of the better plays of the slate, like per dollar, 6,400, coming off 40 and 45 fantasy points, plays big minutes, typically plays big minutes. I know that Golden State game, he got benched second leg of a back-to-back with Aaron Holiday just having a out-of-body experience in that second half. But Houston's in a great spot, as we mentioned. And if you can't get to the likes of, like, if you can't pair VanVleet with Şengün, Jalen Green is a perfectly fine pairing with one of those two guys, $6,400, especially if he's going to score the way he has lately, 25 and 34 actual the last two games.
Yeah, I'm full on in agreement with you with that as well. Duncan Robinson, we talked about a little bit at 62. I think you can certainly go back to him, the way they've been shooting and the way that Milwaukee's been playing some defense perfectly fine, running down and targeting that one. I also think the Atlanta guys are in play. We'll talk about the forwards, but Bogdan here. Minutes have been up. No Jalen Johnson. The shooting's been there, and again, a spot where we're looking at a high scoring game.
Yeah, I mean the price has definitely been like pretty steady here, and I haven't necessarily gotten there because he is very, very scoring dependent. I know he had the 7 rebounds last game, but that was the first time he's had more than 5. He hasn't had more than 3 assists in the last 15 games. He's not typically around a steal per game, so he is very scoring dependent, and obviously that can come into play whenever. He makes a lot of threes at times, so I'm okay with the Bogdan. I love the position eligibility. I love the game. So if you want to get there, I can definitely see a scenario. He is the most popular Atlanta Hawk tonight, 16% right now, projected to get there. John, I wanted to get your take on this.
Sure.
Because you're talking about how unappealing probably is this. I don't know if the Golden State Sacramento is the most unappealing near 240 total this year, but it feels that way, from a DFS standpoint. Malik Monk is the most popular Sacramento King tonight. $5,600. We know Keegan Murray is not playing, but Malik Monk is getting some ownership. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's played 30, 26, 24 minutes the last 3 games. 16, 26, 21 fantasy points. Would you play Malik Monk tonight? $5,600. Ownership is there. It's late night hammer exposure. I don't know where else I would go in that game. I actually don't hate Malik Monk, but I don't love the price. I don't love it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to get exposure to that game, I think it makes sense, right? Because if that's where people are going, why not try to, get high scoring, late hammers exposure, right. Pair him up maybe with Steph on the way back or something.
I mean, he has a ceiling, right? This is one of those dudes, when he gets hot and you see him chirping the other team and just having fun. I mean, he could go and give you 30 actual at times. He hasn't done it all that much this year. In fact, 23 is the most, but he's gone for 40 twice in terms of fantasy points. I don't hate it. Just throwing it out there. 5,600, getting ownership. It's interesting. It's interesting because he's the only one on Sacramento getting double-digit ownership. Next is Sabonis at 7%. De'Aaron Fox is getting 3%. Everyone else is nothing. And then when you look at Golden State, who do you actually want to play on Golden State outside of Stephen Curry? I'm unsure. So just for those late night hammer enthusiasts out there, Malik Monk is someone that I would have my eye on at 5,600.
I don't mind it. Again, you're talking about the scoring. Scoring certainly can be there. The shooting can certainly be there. Caleb Martin's someone we discussed. I think certainly a spot to kind of run to here at $4,500. 30 minutes the other day, coming off a ceiling scoring game, 34.75 fantasy points, 22 actual there. For some value on a slate that's starved of value. I certainly don't mind going to, because as we find ourselves going down, there really isn't anything down here that we're looking to play.
Agreed. Just please, the position eligibility is fantastic too. Just please give us the Brooklyn Caleb Martin and not the New York Caleb Martin, where he played coming off a 26-minute game against Cleveland, played 18 minutes. So
Bam officially listed in, so we were good on there. Trying to see what else we got going on in this. Probably no one else here at small forward, right? Like DDV, not going to be more. Isaiah Joe early in the day was getting some love. I mean, the minutes are still kind of there for him. Would you give any Isaiah Joe looks?
Yeah, look, he is their sixth man in competitive games, and he is shooting better than almost anyone else in the league. He's shooting 48% from three. If you're telling me that Isaiah Joe can go out there and knock down like 6 threes, I think that I would have interest. I wish it was, I mean, the price is coming down, so that's nice. I wish it was like 41, 42 because he has great position eligibility. It's not a great spot, but he is a sniper from three. Yeah. So, like,
I mean, he was 48, 46, so we are getting a decent value. The shooting is what's crazy.
What's crazy.
And a game of point spread is moving its way towards OKC here tonight. So something to at least consider if you're trying to find some value on the slate that really doesn't have a lot. We appreciate all of you popping in here. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. IC3 saying he just made his first Donnie Mitch line. Like it. To Prince, what was this on the $9,300 FanDuel question? Which one were we talking about there? Let me know, and we can help you out with the FanDuel pricing there. If you haven't already, toss a like down on today's show. Certainly appreciate you all stopping in. We appreciate it a lot. If you would hit that like button, help us out, help promote the show here. If you haven't already subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. We go live every day, 5 o'clock Eastern time with some NBA DFS. We're live throughout the day with some NFL content here as well. Anthony Edwards at $9,300 on FanDuel. I'm fine. Going that. What about you, James?
Yeah, I mean, he's even more appealing on FanDuel because we know
the steals,
the stocks for Anthony Edwards can be pretty high. I mean, he averages 1.9 per game combined, and we know. I mean, remember the stretch last year when we looked at Ant Edwards and it was like 2, 7, 6, 4, 2, 7. 6 steals, and we're like, what in the world is this guy on? I love Ant over on FanDuel at 9,300.
Agreed. Moving on over to small forward again, some guys with dual positional eligibility here. As we mentioned, the Celtics need to win by 23 points tonight, and they need the Nets to not win by more than 8 or something. Jason Tatum's 10-3 coming off of a 54 fantasy point game, 34-9-4 against Atlanta. They're 13.5-point home favorites. Tatum was vocal last game out, like being upset that the point tiebreaker thing mattered instead of just the wins. But knowing that Boston needs the points to go on, and if they truly care about this in-season tournament and all of that, JT, I mean, he played 39 in back-to-back games. Like, does he come off the floor here tonight? Like, does he play 40 minutes like it's a playoff game to hope that they go and beat Chicago by 25 tonight? Like, what are your thoughts here, James?
It is a playoff game.
Well, yeah, it's an in-season playoff game.
They need to clinch. We'll see.
There's a legitimate ceiling if that's the case for JT tonight.
We'll see how much Tatum cares about his two-way contract teammates tonight. If he plays a season low in minutes, that will tell you all you need to know about JT and how he feels about his teammates. Yeah, there's a ceiling. No, there's a massive ceiling on Tatum.
No Porzingis. We know the usage is there. The rebounds should be there for him.
I mean, this is no Monday night in Charlotte, but it's a
Tuesday night in Boston.
It's a Tuesday night in Boston against a really bad Bulls team. I will say, like, probably ends up like mixing it up with Caruso. We saw Caruso participate in shoot around this morning. Probably see some Pat Will if any of those things matter. They're the Bulls' best two defenders, but either way, like, again, individual matchups don't always matter. And if Tatum, I mean, 9 rebounds, like, you got to think there's like double-double, like there's double-double upside. I agree, Gabriel. I mean, there's a chance.
If you think Tatum gets 60 here tonight, and I wrote him up in the playbook for this reason, you don't need to really, I mean, you can always play Giannis and Luka, but if Tatum's going to go for 60 tonight, you take the $1,100 on a night where there's no value and allocate that elsewhere. So I do like Tatum tonight a lot. The same reason I like SGA. I think both of them are in line for potential ceiling games here at a discounted price tag. After that, I think I just jumped down to Bridges. Miles Bridges here at 8K for me personally. Again, some really strong production here. Bounce right back and 3 straight double-doubles for Miles Bridges. He's going to play 37 minutes in back-to-back games here. Again, I like the Hornets even in a game they're double-digit dogs. So
you drove right over the other bridges too. That's crazy.
yeah, I don't really care about his brother as much here tonight.
I do prefer Miles. I'm okay with neither priority to me, but I think both have a solid ceiling floor combination.
Yeah, that's fine by me. Again, the double there is nice.
Yeah, crazy.
Giving you some steals here, no balls, so maybe some more shot attempts find his way. I'm not really interested in playing anybody on Chicago. I mentioned Strus already. We mentioned a lot of these mid-tier guys. It brings me to the Atlanta Wings again. DeAndre Hunter here is at 6K. 3 really good games now for DeAndre Hunter in a row. Good spot there, given the game total in this matchup against Cleveland. They're 4.5-point underdogs. Yes, if he's playing power forward tonight, then he's got to deal probably with maybe Mobley there. But I'll talk about that game theory as well in a little bit as we work our way down this position. I do like Hunter. I mentioned Bogdan already as someone I'm into. Jaquez is super chalky. We'll bring up our rostership page here at the end of the show. So if you want to see our rostership page, hang with us here. We'll bring that up in a little bit. But obviously, Jaime Jaquez started for Jimmy Butler over the weekend. Very well could be in that starting lineup for him again here today at $5,400, while a lot of the rostership is finding their way to him. Mentioned Martin, Joe already. Any other guys in the small forward range for you?
Nothing that stands out as I guess the only other name I'd throw out there and someone who's getting some pretty high ownership is RJ Barrett. And you kind of posed that question on last night's show, and I was like,
I did take the RJ Barrett over points and rebounds prop tonight. It was at 21.5. Obviously didn't hit that against Phoenix, but has hit it pretty consistently lately. So, I don't mind it in a spot against Charlotte here today.
I mean, it's a really good spot. This is the first time all year he's been under 6K. And before those migraines, RJ Barrett was on one. I mean, he went the 3 games prior, 38, 40, 37 fantasy points, 24, 24, 26 actual points. He was shooting the ball really well. I mean, he's shooting 45% from the floor and from 3 this year. It's just the peripheral stats just sometimes lag behind. So if RJ goes for 22, he might only have, he had last game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. That's not great. Mm-hmm. What do you think of Barrett? 5,900, dual position eligible.
They're huge favorites in this game.
Yeah.
And before his little injury thing there, he was really popping for us. So I don't hate it. I don't hate the under 6K play there. Again, we just like Brunson and Randall a little bit better, but if this is a high scoring game, they're all just going to be on the floor. I don't mind it. One guy I wanted to mention, you mentioned him earlier, is Georges Niang. Now, if you go look at our friends over at Popcorn Machine, you look at that most recent game that they had against Toronto, the 26, where he played 23 minutes in that game. And you look at where those 23 minutes sort of came into. He played all but 1:40 of the third quarter in that one. They basically did not play Jared Allen in that third quarter. And if you look at sort of the rotations that they've played with, there's been a lot of times where Georges Niang's been on the floor with Evan Mobley at the 5. It hasn't really been a situation where Niang is going in and playing with Jared Allen all too often here. And then I look at Atlanta, and we know sort of how Atlanta's wing play is and what they can do at center, where they can go a little bit smaller there. And I wonder if this is a game where maybe Jared Allen has long stretches of not being on the floor, and they have Niang out there to stretch the floor and play with the wings that Atlanta is going to go put on the floor. If there's a lineup where it's, Trey, DeJounte, Bay, Hunter, and Aganku or something like that out there, they're probably less likely to have Mobley, Allen on the floor together in those scenarios. And I'm just looking at the most recent game against Toronto. That's what happened. They when you look at sort of the lineups were out there and the way some of the rotations were, they didn't play the double big all too often. You saw long stretches there where Allen, wasn't on the floor. He didn't play most of that third quarter. So just game theorying, just throwing out there. If Atlanta goes to a smaller lineup, Niang's out there playing power forward and Mobley at the 5. I feel pretty good knowing that these minutes of the last couple of games have been no less than 20, creeped up to 26, 23, 23. He's a shooter. Rebounding numbers are kind of stabilizing a little bit there. On a slate that has no value with a high game total like that in a pace up spot, no less, for Cleveland, I think there's a case to be made for Georges Niang tonight.
So I'm not saying I don't think Georges Niang is in play and are going to have a role. The minutes were definitely a correlation to a back-to-back, because when you look at the last two back-to-backs for Jared Allen, 11-21, he plays 35 minutes. 11-22, he plays 23 minutes. 11-25, he plays 37 minutes. So that was the Toronto game was second leg of a back-to-back, 27 minutes. He has played less on this back-to-back second legs of back-to-backs. So
I'm also just looking at who the personnel on the floor is too for these games. So I think that there's, at least in the Toronto game, there could be a case to where they went smaller, just looking at their lineup and who was on the floor when Niang was out there, and when Allen was on the floor. So
but if you look at like the front ends of the back-to-backs, like,
but even then, the front end of the back-to-backs, he's still playing 23 minutes.
Right? No. That I'm not just. He's in the rotation. Like, no Dean Wade. He's playing 20+ minutes. I'm just more so. I don't think he's cutting into Jared Allen not on a back-to-back, because Jared Allen is playing 35+ minutes on both of the front ends the last two times they've played.
Sure. Again, I'm still playing. I still think Georges Niang is a strong play here this evening. So, like that, if Mobley plays, I think Mobley's in a great spot anyways, Gabriel, truthfully. I think it's still a fine spot for him. I'm not really in on Hart. I don't know. What do you think? You playing Hart tonight?
It's a good price. Very up and down production. It's last piece in
tonight for Boston. So they're
Derek White as well. So
they're going for it. They're going for it tonight. So doesn't really take me off Tatum at all, but obviously they're being at full strength. No Delano Blanton tonight. Sorry, James.
I honestly, I'm perfectly fine with not playing Delano Blanton tonight.
Any other small forwards for you here?
No.
Okay. Power forward. Where are we looking?
So I almost want to just get this out of the way now. Grant Williams is really popular tonight, and I just don't understand it. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, I don't want to play.
I'm not playing Grant Williams. I think this is another case of just a lack of value on the slate.
Like, Grant Williams is popular. He is like 10x the next highest owned Maverick. Like, if Lively plays, you won't see an extended run for Williams at center. So I'm just getting that out of the way early before we get to the value section, because he is one of the most popular plays of the slate for one reason or another.
Right.
At the top, like, you can play Giannis always if you'd like. There's a ceiling. He's gone for 60 fantasy points a whole bunch of times lately. Not the best pace environment for him, but he doesn't necessarily. Derek Jones has been bad. He's also been like losing time to Josh Green. Other than the last game, Josh Green only played 9 minutes, but
he's not playing more than 20 here. So.
I'd
rather play Niang honestly at the same price.
Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
All right, top end tier. We have Giannis. Any reservations of paying for Giannis tonight?
No.
Randall at 87.
He's fine.
Towns at 86.
It's a good play. Just foul trouble is always a thing with him.
Yep, agreed. When I did the playbook, I didn't really love the top tier, honestly. I played Tatum, and then I kind of just went down to the mid tier. Cam Johnson, $6,100 against Toronto. At shoot around today.
Yep.
Good play.
Yeah, I mean, it's cramps. Like, what? That doesn't seem like a thing that would impact him, but he is not the healthiest.
Talked about DeAndre Hunter already. He can play Al Horford at center. He'll play 30+ minutes here tonight. We were big on Jabari Smith earlier this morning. Nothing there has changed for me here.
Yep.
Still big on Jabari Smith tonight. $5,900. Great value for him the way he's been running. Sadiq Bey, $5,600. No problems at all getting back to Sadiq Bey here for me. Minutes with no Jalen Johnson should be strong for him, given they've been good with Jalen Johnson playing. So for me, I just kind of lived. I lived in this mid 6K range and below. I didn't find myself spending up at power forward tonight.
I lived. I lived as well. Jabari
Set
for
shop, build the house.
Cam Johnson officially available to play as of a minute ago. Dennis Smith Jr. ruled out. So if your Dinwiddie shares through the roof right now. Yeah, I mean, Jabari's a very solid play. So is Cam Johnson. Sadiq also lost out on some run in that game. He had 2 early fouls against Boston, checked out. So didn't get any foul trouble earlier, but just when early foul trouble, just you lose time, like naturally. So Sadiq should be back into the 30s with no Jalen Johnson. Jaquez obviously is here. Some of the field getting to some Wiggins, but he's bad or been bad this year outside of one game where he made all threes and they still lost. There's not a lot. There's not a lot here. Naz Reid's going to probably get ownership because he always gets ownership.
Yeah.
And people are, for whatever reason, playing Grant Williams.
You want high fantasy point per minute playing like Tari Eason or something, like, but knowing he might only play 15 minutes, right? Like,
yeah, Kevin Love's probably in the same ballpark there.
Love. Again, more of a reason why I kind of gravitated to Niang, just the dual positional eligibility at positions I didn't think had a lot of great value here this evening.
Yeah.
All right, Saturday then. Again, this is on an 8-game slate. A lot of guys playing a lot of minutes. Şengün was our favorite center of the day. Nothing has changed for me there.
No. I mean, pace up spot, check. Bad defense, check. All the minutes. They need to win the in-season tournament to advance. He's played 43 minutes last time they took the floor against Denver in a 20-point win in a game that they're winning by 20 throughout. Like, it was not like a pull away at the end. That was a 20-point win. Him and Jokic both played 40 minutes.
Love Ime
Udoka, the coach, and Şengün 8,500. I mean, he's gone for 50, nearly 60 burgers twice in his last 3 games. No problem getting there.
Yeah, absolute monster. $8,500, great price point again. When there's no, What do
you think of Bam, John? What do you think of Bam? No Jimmy.
I don't know. It's not a game I'm really getting a lot of exposure to outside of the value, so I don't know. Not my favorite spot.
Because this year's Bam has definitely been different than years past Bam. I mean, 9 double-doubles in his last 10 games.
Yeah, I just don't know why you'd want to spend more money on him when Şengün.
When you have Şengün, it would be just an ownership play. Sure. Because Şengün is super popular.
Yeah, I could see it. You mentioned a lot of people getting to Jared Allen. If you wanted to play Mobley or Allen, well, again, I think they're both fine. But I guess we'll see. I think that there could be something there. Tell John about Bam's fantasy point per minute without Jimmy. I'm sure it's great.
Yep.
That doesn't mean I'm playing him just because of the fantasy point per minute. These are all matchup based. You know, is he playing fantasy point per minutes versus Giannis and Brook Lopez and all those spots? No. So, that's fine. If you want to throw some Bam out there, by all means, knock yourself silly. I'll take the value forwards instead, and we'll let it ride there. Where else are you going to the mid tier at center?
Gobert is someone that's getting a lot of interest in ownership land. It is a really good price. I'm very on the fence about it. When he scores, he has a lot of upside because the blocks are just all the way back with Gobert, and the rebounds are seemingly there outside of a random 4-rebound game in Memphis. If he scores, there's a ceiling.
Okay.
I don't know. 66 is cheap, man. I'd rather probably play Jared Allen in this spot. I think Jared Allen is in a pretty good spot in the pace-up spot. 6,400 is a good price. Claxton is a little interesting. There's a ceiling on Claxton. I could probably say the same thing about Pirtle. Can say the same thing about Brolo. Like, all these guys have pretty high ceilings.
Al Horford at 6K?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love it. I definitely like it less with Drew Holiday back. Sure. I know the 15 rebounds were great, but we've also seen Drew Holiday take like a pretty big leap at times in rebounding with Boston, like since joining Boston. Indifferent about the 6K Horford.
Cool. All right. Where else are we going here?
Interesting to see Ngakoue not getting any ownership, or really not a lot of ownership, because he's usually highly owned, and now there's no value on a slate. So I would go there, 4,800. That might be it. I don't think
no
there's
minutes restriction, by the way, on Drew Holiday today per coach Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, per coach Joe Mazzulla, that's telling us that they're going for gold tonight.
Going for the throat here. Yeah, I'm with you. The value tier at center. I'll just get to him quickly. We won't waste as much time as we did last night on, but we'll just mention him. That I think there's a chance he's the backup 5 tonight for the Celtics. He was the backup 5 for the Celtics the other night. That still only resulted in 15 minutes for him. Al Horford played over 30. Luke Cornett played 9. But they signed him. He was a monster during the summer league, G League All-Star last year, first team All G League last year. Played 15 minutes, gave you 7 points, 10 boards in those 15 minutes. He had like 6 offensive rebounds in like 9 minutes at one point. So if you think this game is a 30-point blowout, I think that there's a chance that Al Horford of the starters would be one to kind of take a break here. I don't think they need to put all that weight on Horford. Given the fact that Porzingis is expected to miss a week, could see Queta in here getting some. I don't think he plays 25 minutes, but if he plays 20, clearly he's an active enough guy. He took 8 shots in 15 minutes, so he's not afraid to get out there and do some damage. So again, I'm a 1 of 20 lineup play for me. He's not a core play. He's not making a 3 max, but 1 of 20. I think I would throw a dart in there.
Yeah, MME play for sure.
Any other values at center for you? We didn't
No.
talk about yet. Okay.
No.
You want to pull up the rostership page?
Yeah.
Show everybody what we got over here for some rostership over at Fantasy. This is part of the All Pro package here. If you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, now is your time to do so. Get access to all of our cool tools that we got over on site right now. It's also Cyber Week. You can go to fantasy.com. Get our annual subscription package. Scan that QR code. Use promo code HURRY. Get $16 a month on the annual sub. It's almost $40 a month for the month-to-month cost. So you're getting a massive discount right now when you scan that QR code and use promo code HURRY at checkout for the year's package. Get access to all of our DFS content, not just NBA, but NFL, NHL, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, you name it. If it's behind the paywall, we cover it, and you get it for less than $16 a month. So scan that QR code there, become a member of the family today, and get access to our rostership page. It looks like this, James.
Yeah, let's go to Miami first. Okay. I think we could just, this is what the ownership looks like. We have our team drop down, our position drop down, but I think Miami is probably where we should start our look-see daisy here because this is where, like you said, the chalk is going. 4 guys over 18%. I think the Kevin Love thing is a little interesting. 14% rostership coming into Kevin Love. Mm-hmm. He is the 5th highest owned play and 5. And there's the Bam scenario too. 6% or 7% if you want to round up the pivot from Şengün. But it is interesting. Like, how many Heat would you play tonight, John? If barring Haywood Highsmith being out.
Yeah, again, I think the value plays. I would play the value. If you wanted to get Jaquez, Caleb Martin in your lineup, I think those are fine. I think both of those guys present a little bit more higher ceiling plays. I'd never really figure Richardson to be a slate breaker at all. Duncan Robinson with that shooting has been nice. But like Caleb Martin's a guy that we've seen score, provide defense, can rebound, could give you that 10x play tonight if you got the 30-plus minutes. Jaquez obviously has shown a ceiling here as well to give you an 8-9x return potentially at his 5K price tag tonight. So I don't mind those plays, but I'm not going crazy. I'm not playing like 4 Heat because they're not 3 K plays. They're 5K and above plays. So
max 3? Max 3?
Yeah, max 3 probably. But again, I don't even really like going 3, but max 3, sure.
What other spot is interesting tonight? What do we got? We got
get the high game total games. You have Cleveland, Atlanta, I think.
Cleveland, I think the Cleveland ownership is a little interesting because nobody's playing any of them other than Jared Allen and Darius Garland. Like, everyone's just kind of fading this spot. Evan Mobley, Evan Mobley 15%, but no one playing Donnie Mitch, no one playing Niang. Literally not a person playing Max. Like, Max Struss is getting like 2 people per contest playing him. So
I know.
Struss.
I'm playing him though, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, 6,600, definitely like a price we're not accustomed to seeing, but massive pace up spot and Let's take a look at you mentioned earlier, you said nobody is paying up for spend ups. That is accurate tonight. The highest owned is Anthony Edwards at 8,900.
It's a fair and balanced build here tonight. So
Did
the
you-
Miami note, I know Sean was in chat saying like the usage rate for Bam, yeah, he's at 25.9. Without Hero and Butler on the floor this year, Caleb Martin's also sitting at 24.5% usage rate. So some pretty strong usage rates for those guys there. Bam obviously has the fantasy point per minute. He's the only regular over 1 fantasy point per minute at 1.3, but still Caleb Martin usage rate for given the sample size of games that he's been active for this year, that's a pretty good number given the price. What did we say? He's $4,400, something like that tonight. So
Houston, the team that I've told you I've been on all day.
Yeah.
Everyone is, unfortunately. Would you play Dylan Brooks 6%? Would you get leverage on Brooks at 49?
No, that's not a guy I'm looking for.
What do you think Brooks is going to guard? He's guarding Luka, right? He's guarding Luka, right?
Probably.
Like that's
he's
in foul trouble.
If I lose to Dylan
Luka.
Brooks, then I lose to Dylan Brooks. Like that's just the way it happens to be. I'm going to play Jalen Green tonight. I'm going to play Şengün, Jabari. I don't actually find myself getting to any VanVleet yet with my lineup builds, just the way things have priced out. But I obviously don't mind him either.
That's probably a Garland / Rozier thing more than it is like not playing not wanting to play
Agreed.
VanVleet. Right?
Yeah, well, that's mostly what it is. Yeah, I have more Garland going against Atlanta. Again, nothing against him. I play some Rozier as well. So reasons I haven't gotten to VanVleet, I've just gotten the guys around him. So you can save the money on Jabari and Jalen Green and pay up for Şengün, and it's kind of where I've been going.
Here's your one half of the late night hammer here. As you see, there is nobody getting
which is also wild for a 239 game total.
What isn't it? Like I feel like when I said it's the best worst game.
It's got a close spread and the highest total.
The worst 240 total. And nobody's playing it. So we have Clay as the only double-digit owned player. I can't understand why 8% would get to Draymond. I know it wasn't like an injury but like he hadn't really been playing like all that many minutes to begin with. And then the Sacramento side, like I said, like it's Monk, which is getting 15%, which I do think is a little bit interesting. I'm not like shifting my lineup around to get Malik Monk, but if I had 5,600 and that's where I ended, I'd be okay with it. What do you make of does Fox and Sabonis being sub 10%
more
intrigue
Fox
you at all?
probably than like Sabonis, but
yeah, I agree. I mean,
where do these points come
Sabonis
from?
might get
There's 239 points coming from.
Well,
Curry goes for 40.
And Curry goes for 40, one assist, one rebound tonight. Yeah. I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic that nobody's getting to this game tonight. A lot of people getting here to the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson getting a lot of ownership.
I get it for the rebounding aspect. It's weird to me that the rostership is there given they're home with a huge double-digit spread, but yeah, the pricing makes sense, I guess, for the guys there. Barrett makes sense for pricing-wise. We like Quickly anyways as a guy off the bench for them. I don't mind Brunson, but yeah, it's kind of weird.
Surprised to see Quickly getting so much ownership. He's not typically someone
everybody's in on the game.
Yeah, everyone's in on the game. Prince, I'll do this for you right here. We'll flash some FanDuel ownership here for you. Fred VanVleet, $8,000, highest owned player of the slate. Malik Monk. See, 5,100 on FanDuel feels really good for Malik Monk. Like that makes sense to me. Why people would be gravitating towards him. But Sabonis, it's always interesting to see the discrepancies here, right? Because
what would
Sabonis
he have his DraftKings again? No, Monk.
Who, Sabonis? Okay. 15% rostership, 50 at 5,600. So $500 more on a site where you have 10,000 less dollars than you do on FanDuel. Looks like Houston still nobody is really gravitating away from them site to site. Evan Mobley here on FanDuel getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah, I feel like more people play Mobley than Allen tonight. So,
well, it's closer on DraftKings. Yeah. It's not even close on FanDuel. But also, you only have the one center ability on FanDuel, so like you're really like DeAndre Jordan, who I wish I could play tonight, was only 30% owned on FanDuel last night at mid salary. Like that just goes to show you, center is always like kind of a spread out even type of.
Let's
just a look at. Yeah, let's build
Caruso in, Levine in. We kind of expected that here. All right, building a lineup. I think we're plugging in Şengün.
Yep.
And the heat value. We have Martin.
Probably Jaquez, right? That's probably like the Martin Jaquez both. It's probably like feels the best.
I still like going Bay here, or would you rather?
Oh, Highsmith ruled out, by the way. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Highsmith even better
ruled out 6 minutes ago.
Would you go Duncan then? Would you just play the three? Play the three we'd play, or are you more of a Richardson guy tonight?
I'm less a Duncan at 6,200 than I am Richardson or Lowry.
Middleton in
probably. Middleton in. Not playing him, but like good to see that Achilles is holding
he's limited. Do you think in his return?
Oh, sure.
Set the clock back there on the limitations.
Yeah, definitely set the clock back. Well, guy plays 29 minutes and then instantly there's.
Do you like Jabari or Jalen Green if you want to pick one Houston guy here?
What do you think?
I'm just
you have
looking
Jabari on the screen. I think Green slightly, but no issue.
My feeling on Green or Jabari is that the fact that like Eason and Tate and all the guys are active tonight feels like it could end up taking away from Jabari if he doesn't get going, where they don't really have much guard depth here.
Yeah, guard depth.
I still like Strus. I'm gonna go Strus at 66.
Garland, 72
I'd
or
rather
Rozier.
Garland, I think.
Same.
Forward 5,700 for Ford and util. Do you want to do Isaiah Joe? $4,400.
I mean, dude, he is shooting nearly 50% from three. He's going to play 25 minutes.
In a game where the spread is moving in his favor. It gives us 7K util.
Not a great tier. Not the best tier, I would say.
So what do we want to get to then? We don't have a ton of money to kind of move around. That's the other unfortunate thing there. What if we move?
If you wanted to do Niang, or
Niang, 69.
That's a thing.
Could we get the VanVleet from here? 5,800 util.
58 util. Bogdan. You want to get some late exposure?
How many do you chase? Do you chase the chalk here? I guess I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, so it's
sure
Keegan Murray being out, and Duarte stinks. And you saw him play 30 minutes last game, right? So you see him play 30 minutes. He has a high usage rate. I understand the trepidation. I'm not sitting here saying like I think Malik Monk is the answer to our issue here, but I also do like understand he is a high usage player, regardless of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Like he has a 40-point ceiling that he's flashed twice this year. And there's no Keegan. I'm looking up the fantasy points per minute without Keegan on the floor this year just to get a 1.01 fantasy points per minute, nearly a 25% usage rate for Malik Monk. Now, if we core IQ this with Fox and Sabonis on the floor, maybe that will tell us a little bit more because obviously he's going to be playing large minutes with, not great. Don't really love to see.
I'm sure they're not
looking at, but it's a 4.48 fantasy points per minute with Fox and Sabonis, but he does play a large chunk of his time without one of the two because it's early sub Fox. Sabonis plays, then he comes back in
with that
either
group,
Fox
and he's
or Sabonis.
taken out. So
then he closes the 30 minutes. There's obviously a floor.
What if we did Joe 37? That's a 93. 93. Be Donnie Mitch. It would be our fourth. Actually, no, Anthony Edwards. Give us our fourth. There we go. So we got Darius Garland, Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez, Alperen Şengün, Isaiah Joe, Jordan Niang, Anthony Edwards. If we want to go down to Jalen Green here, I guess actually. Jalen Green, 64. Still like Anthony Edwards. Would give you Curry.
Probably still
another Ant here. So $600 left over. You can play around with it how you want. Like Garland, Green, Martin, Jaquez, Şengün, Joe, Niang, and Edwards for the lineup build there for everybody. I'm going to go update the player pools for the playbooks. So go check that out for everybody who has access to our premium content over there. We'll be in the Discord as well, getting you guys ready. I also put all my best bets in the Discord from the Better Sports Betting Show today, so you can go check those out there as well. If you haven't yet already subscribed and liked the channel, do so you get notified when we go live. We'll be back live again tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Any final thoughts here, James?
No, thank you everyone for tuning in. Big Tuesday in-season tournament night here, John, and Bart Scott can't wait for some quality basketball tonight.